Hey, welcome back to the channel. And for this video, we're going to be diving into the internet finally explained. Now, if you are fairly new to tech, you're breaking in, or maybe you've been in it for a while, it is a poor assumption to think everybody understands how the internet works. We all know what the internet is to some degree, but to give that concise answer of how it works and what happens underneath the hood, that's something I want to get some clarity on in this video. So for today's agenda, we're going to be diving in what is the internet, where is it, who created it, and breaking down some of the core components I think everybody should be aware of. My name is Caleb King. I am the founder of People in Tech and Vault Dev. I'm formerly a software engineer, and the whole point of this video and this series is to turn chaos into clarity. You might have seen some of my content on TikTok and social media. Here's my animated version, and then here's real life me. So let's dive into it. So when we think about the internet to me is really the world's most popular computer network. It began as an academic research project back in 1969, and today it's used by more than 2 billion people around the world. It's notable for decentralization, meaning no one owns the internet or controls it. Instead, thousands of different organizations operate their own networks and negotiate what's known as a voluntary interconnection agreement. And most people, like you and me, we access the internet using things like web browsers, our iPhones, our tablets, Apple TV, Chromecast. But ultimately, the internet is essential in today's society. People being fully remote employed, like myself, people depend on the internet to make their lives, to make their living. And even for me, I use the internet to stay connected to family and friends. So not only is it critical to our lives, we truly don't understand how it works all the time because it's a little bit of dark black magic behind the scenes, and that's what I want to uncover today. Now, when we're talking about the internet, I like to think of it in 3 different parts. The first part, you and me are most familiar with, is what's known as the last mile. Now, the last mile is simply the part of the internet that connects homes to small businesses. So if you think of Comcast and Time Warner and the different internet service providers, also known as ISP networks, we pay a monthly fee, which is usually ridiculous, and we say we want a set amount of data. The company, let's use Time Warner for example, they have infrastructure in certain neighborhoods where when you call one of their reps, they connect some box that you might see outside on your corner or your street, and they tie that into your house. You have some type of router, some type of Wi-Fi tooling, which we'll dive into in a bit, where you can ultimately connect to the internet. And that is what's known as the last mile. But the reason we call it the last mile is because if you think of what the internet is, it's a bunch of computers that are connected to each other. And when we talk about the 3 parts, the last mile is just from the small business to your house. The computers are pretty much the data centers. Now, data centers are just big warehouses full of servers, also known as computers. And there's no monitor. They're usually performant. They're usually super fast, super powerful, maybe something you want to buy from Best Buy or the Apple Store, but something an organization would use to maybe run their cloud business like Amazon or Google or Microsoft. So data centers to me are just the physical computers. And the backbone is the long distance of networks. So think of all the wires connecting. Now here is to take anything away from this video, all the internet are these wires connecting. And some of these wires are underneath the ocean connecting America to Europe. And that's all the internet is. A bunch of computers connected on wires, and the wires just have really good cable management. Now, who created it? I like to address this because some of y'all think Al Gore created it, and feel free to pause the screen, but he did not create the internet. But he was a good political leader and pushing the narrative for the internet. And I just want to highlight that is sometimes important. If you're trying to change the game, you sometimes need somebody to break it down to the regular Joe Smo folks who have no idea like what you're trying to push. Like imagine trying to talk about Bitcoin in 2009. Now look at people going crazy for it. So that's where Al Gore was pretty prominent in like pushing a political agenda. Now, who runs the internet? It's very simple. No one does. like I said, it's decentralized. But it's good to understand that there are organizations, there are groups, the Internet Engineering Task Force, where anybody can join these groups, by the way, but they're groups where people can come together and they kind of create standards and they kind of talk about procedures and how things should operate. Now, one thing I want to talk about is one core component, which is an IP address. This is really like the first layer that was peeled back to me that made sense. And when you go to peopleandtech.io, when you go to youtube.com, when you go to coinbase.com, Internet Protocol addresses, all they are the numbers that a computer uses to identify each other on the internet. And it's simply that simple. Now, I don't know if we talked about a little bit of like entering stuff in the URL. Some people have questions when it comes to internet, like they get internet and Wi-Fi confused. And really, when you think of Wi-Fi, there's two types of wireless internet accesses. There's Wi-Fi itself, which is ISP to your internet router to your device. Then there's cellular. Now, Wi-Fi networks, they're relatively simple. But for this video, just know anyone can purchase their own Wi-Fi networking equipment and use that to provide internet to their home or business. Cellular networks are more centralized, but ultimately cells, like think of a more rural area, they can span miles across, and pretty much your phone or device is making a request to a cellular tower, and that cellular tower is responding back with data. Now, usually when we're talking about the internet, people think internet and cloud kind of in the same conversation, but not maybe distinguishing the two. But the cloud describes an approach to computing that has been popular in the early 2000s. By storing files on a server and delivering software over the internet, cloud computing provides users with a simpler, more reliable computer experience. Instead of me having the servers in my home, instead of me going out and spending $50,000, I just pay Amazon or Google or Microsoft or one of these smaller organizations month to month for what I use. And ultimately, that is what the cloud is other people's computers. And the idea is, instead of me doing my own business, my own startup, and buying everything myself, I can just pay Amazon. The reason that's so critical is that allows businesses, startups, companies to move way faster than what was previously allowed. And what is the World Wide Web? Now, the World Wide Web is a popular way information is published. And it was created by Timothy Berners-Lee. And it's pretty much how we use the internet today. You're going on Google, you're going on YouTube, you're watching these videos. This is how you're interacting. The web supports hyperlinks that allows users to browse from one document to another. And remember, Web 1.0 was just all about static content. So you were writing blogs, you were uploading pictures, and like that was mind-blowing. Like, remember, your first group with this, like, their TikTok, their entertainment with just like videos, and not even videos, it's usually just like text and pictures. Fast forward today, now we have the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C, which is the web's official standards organization. The web has come a long way, but it's ultimately how we interact with the internet. Now, speaking of interactions, web browsers is what we use, the actual software we use to connect to the internet. So a web browser is a computer program that allows users to download and view websites. And it's as simple as that. Now, there is a hierarchy when it comes to web. This is why I put this image up for you guys. Chrome, at this point, has just pretty much become one of the top web browsers to this day. It's fast, it leads in support. The fact that it's supported by Google has a lot of great history behind it, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Firefox is still a highly competitive browser. And then, even though they're not number one now, the fact that other organizations are trying to compete with Google is still good, because it's better to have competition in this case than to just only have one organization dominate the entire fold. Because I'll be honest with you, I use Chrome, but I use a lot of Safari. And Safari is low on this list, but high on mine for my own personal reasons. Another thing I want you guys to take away from when we're talking about internet is the security aspect. So when you hear people mention internet and the browser and URLs and going to different sites, are they protected? people are going to mention SSL, which is short for Secure Socket Layer. And it's a family of encryption technologies that allow web users to protect the privacy of information they transmit over the internet. When you visit a secure website like Gmail, you're going to see the little lock icon. But when you see a site and it prompts you or it says it's not secure, I would not advise you to go to that site. There's plenty of videos that are going to tell you why, but it's ultimately just unsafe if it doesn't have SSL nowadays. And that's pretty much it, guys. Like, that's Internet 101. Remember, an internet is a magical place, but how it works isn't all that magical. I made that quote up myself, so I hope you liked it. But let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, as we're going to be doing one of these pretty much every 2 or 3 days. So hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you guys later.